Hey, everybody.
May the 4th be with you. Hold on. How's everybody doing today? Welcome. I'm Chad.
I'm Erica.
And welcome to the Oddcast podcast.
We are so happy y'all are joining us for this show. We're really excited to do this one, the episode 5. And we have a lot to say. We have a lot of personal experience. And we are really looking forward to everyone adding their comments. We may send a link out later on in the show. But we have a lot to learn from each other on this wide range topic.
Yeah, today we're going to pretty much talk about what we do if the grid goes down, if power goes down, whether it be for a week or a month, whatever. We really need to work with each other on this because we can all learn from each other. Mm-hmm. I will say that everybody, whenever coming from Ohio and there'd be a snowstorm come in, everybody would be like, oh my God, we got to get milk and eggs, or toilet paper or whatever. If you don't have that stocked up anyway, or in your, pantry, then maybe you should rethink things because you really need to keep that stuff on hand in case emergency happens. Mm-hmm. What made us want to do this show, is Monday. I don't know if you heard it on the news or wherever you get your news. Spain, Portugal, and parts of France lost power completely. So they had no ATMs, they had nothing. And it just, they're blaming on at the time they were blaming it on an atmospheric anomaly, and now they're going to investigate. So that tells me it wasn't an atmospheric anomaly. But you have to worry about that here as well. Whether it be the rash of tornadoes, which it's really weird because I looked up the amount of tornadoes so far just this year, and there's been 668 tornadoes here in the United States. And for you Mississippi folk, there's been 95 in Mississippi alone. Now, obviously, tornadoes don't happen over populated areas all the time, but that's a lot of tornadoes. Also, earthquakes are becoming bigger now. Worldwide. Now, I did a search on how many earthquakes have happened in the U.S. so far this year, and the USGA didn't have any numbers yet. They weren't counting it. So that was, kind of disheartening because we do have them pretty much every day. Some we don't feel. Pretty much everything under a 4.0, which is the seismograph tells you. That's what a seismograph reads, is the amount of vibration. And if it's 4.0 or smaller, usually you don't feel it unless you're right on the epicenter. Anything over that, I know that they said there's been 5 7.0s to 7.9s worldwide. Now that's the ones where they trigger tsunami warnings if it's in the ocean. Then you worry about that. And I can't remember what year it was that Japan had the big tsunami that wiped out the Fukushima power plant, which we should all still be concerned about. And there's been 32 6.0s to 6.9s throughout the world. So the earthquakes are getting bigger. They're getting more. That's what they're telling us anyways. So we thought we'd do a show. I know I have a lot of friends in the hurricane areas, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, all those, Texas. And they have a different way and different things they do to prepare for that stuff. I can't throw in stuff for that because I've never experienced any of that. We've prepared for tornadoes coming in. We've prepared for, to be honest, we lived in Ohio and we had to worry about Hurricane Katrina's remnants. We had 70 plus mile an hour winds. It uprooted. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. You couldn't go down hardly any roads in the country because of the trees. And we lost power for a week. And that's kind of what got me started in thinking about, hold on, my watch is on. That's kind of what got me started into a little bit into the prepping. When we got together and Cuba and us were having issues and all these other things were going on, we decided we'd start doing a little bit of stockpiling. And that thing that everybody got sick with, that's when we started stockpiling toilet paper. Just kidding. Anyway, so we're going to discuss today what we did and what, kind of things that you can do at your place to what I like to call bug in. You have two things. You have a bug in and you have a bug out. We have both. We bug in and we have packs packed for bugging out. Now, a bug out scenario, that's a scenario where you don't have the ability to stay at your house. That has become a danger. Whether it's let's say, a civil war type scenario or a nuclear type scenario where you actually have to leave your area. Hopefully that never happens, but we like to be prepared for everything. Mm-hmm. But the bug in scenario is for everybody. That's for tornadoes. That's for hurricanes. That's for any type of incident that create a grid down situation. EMP is the one I always worry about, an electromagnetic pulse where it can knock out all electric, burns car batteries up. It burns solenoids in your starters up. It does everything that you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Your cell phones are useless. So when all that happens, you really have to worry about how you're going to live your life. It's a seasonal thing. So we'll talk about warm weather scenario and we'll talk about a cold weather scenario. So we'll start with this. So a grid down scenario, the best thing to have on hand that helps is a generator. Now, there are different types of generators. There's gas, there's diesel, and there are solar. I have a gas generator. After I purchased my gas generator, I thought that makes a lot of noise. So if I have food in my house and I'm running a gas generator to keep my food cold, people are going to know I have a generator going. And Patrick, I love your Tacoma, and someday I'm going to put one of those. And that's awesome. It's got the EMP protection. Yeah, we watch a podcast called Marfugal News, and that's the big thing that he promotes is I can't remember the brand, but that's what it does is EMP protection. Another good thing is to own an older vehicle, and I'm talking without computers, because then all you have to do is replace a starter if you can find one, but you still have that ability. Anyway, back to the generators. I suggest a solar generator. There are many out there. I don't have one, so I can't suggest a particular. I've heard Jackery's a good one. Mm-hmm. I've heard, oh boy, what was the other brand? Anyway, do your research on those to find what you can afford, because they are pricey. Your gas generators are a little bit cheaper, but again, they make noise. And if they make noise, that means people can be attracted to your house or whatever and see what you have or might investigate what you have. And that's where we come to the next one. Weapons. I can't show you what I have because YouTube doesn't like it. But for home defense, you can use many things. You can use shotguns. Pistols are the best. Shotguns are the best for me. It's a, bang, bang, done. But you need to have protection at your house because there won't be any police to come to your house to help you when the grid goes down.
And we kind of had a preview with that with the 2019, 2020 thing.
Yeah.
How people can get, how it changes them. It was kind of a preview of, wow, we need to survive. What are we going to do to survive?
And that was really the media made it a big thing. But what's bigger, losing your power I've lost it only a week. That's the longest, a little bit over a week before. And at that time, I wasn't doing anything in preparation for anything because, we're not a hurricane area. Where we lived wasn't really a hurricane area or really a tornado area at that. So, we really never prepped. Now, once C-19 hit or whatever we want to call it, and we saw how humans react to things and how they scare very easy, you really have to worry about the people that don't think about prepping. And that's what we decided. We weren't going to be those people. We lived in a condo at the time, and we started storing stuff up in our attic, out in the garage, hiding it in boxes and really doing things like that so that we could always have what we needed on hand for a certain amount of time. And I think we were keeping probably 3 months worth of stuff on hand. What's Gene have to say? I've said this for years. All my kids. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. There's so much in the world going on right now, and yeah, I know the media hypes it up a lot, but we're also being hidden from a lot of things that are going on.
And that brings to attention that, I don't know how old your kids are, but there is a huge difference between our generations and how we have learned to communicate with people. Some of us can talk face to face with people. Some of us just text only. It's just that brings a different point of it and how things have changed over the years. But I remember with in 2020, really what hit home with me was seeing empty shelves in the store. And a lot of people don't think about it. A lot of people just absolutely brush it off. But what would you do if you went to the store and nothing was available for weeks? What
Yeah.
would you do?
So let's get on some things here that maybe you should stock up on a little bit. We're going to each talk about different things because she is really good at some things and I'm really good at others as far as what I would stock. So the first thing I want to go with is lights, flashlights. I have a few different ones here. I have this little O light. It's about, I think this one's about 300 lumens. It's fairly bright, works well, but it's batteries, and I'm not a big fan of battery flashlights, which also means you need to stock up on batteries. A's, double A's, triple A's, C's, D's, E's, X, Y, G's, LGBT, whatever kind of that. Here's another one. I'm not sure this brand, but it's about a 200 lumen. And this is my favorite. This little booger right here is an O-Light Marauder Light or Marauder Mini. It's about 7,000 lumens. This can be used as a weapon. This can be used as, to light the woods. It's got two beams. And then it also has red, blue, and green. You can get this on Amazon. It's fairly expensive. And for you friends of mine that are footer enthusiasts, tell you what, this will light your woods up right here. We have woods behind us and beside us, and it will definitely. But it's great. You can shine this in somebody's eyes; they're blind for about 2 hours from experience. Also, a good thing to have is a good NOAA weather radio. It has the National Weather Service on it in your area, and it also has an alarm on it that when you have it set, if the National Weather Service turns that alarm on, tornado, whatever alarm it's for, this is the loudest thing that you'll hear in your lifetime. So if you're 3 o'clock in the morning and dead asleep and this thing goes off, first thing you got to do is hit the bathroom, and then because this will scare the out of you. So we go from that to when we talked about generators, the one thing you also have to remember is to have fuel for your generators, whatever generator you have. So gas, diesel, or sun. Guess that's what you would need for a solar. But you need whatever you own, you need to make sure you've got plenty of fuel for, and I'm going to say, let's say storm scenario for at least a week. And SHTF scenario, you really don't know. You store as much as you can. And yes, Jeff, good for blind and boaters. Yes, absolutely. It could too. Another thing to stockpile, batteries. All the different batteries, and you can see, I'm going to pull them all out because I stockpile every single battery. Make sure you have the things that you need the batteries for. Like
you're not just buying random batteries.
Unless you want to use them for bartering. If SHTF hits,
that's true.
You can use these to barter.
With ammo would be a good one too on that. But do your shopping on batteries because there are some good ones and there are some that are not so reliable and so would not have a great shelf life.
Yeah. Another one, this is one people don't think about often. These are watch batteries, or I collected watches for a while, so I started buying batteries. Then I realized a lot of the little things around the house use these little watch size batteries. So this is another type thing. If you own it, stockpile some batteries. So if you have a watch, like I wear this watch, which is it's a really nice cheap watch. I stockpile batteries for it because it's always going to work if I have batteries for it. So, our cell phones, most people tell time by their cell phones.
Right.
And if the grid goes down, so does your cell phone, and your cell phone becomes useless. Another thing is, and I forgot to bring those out, are walkie-talkies. Even though you're home, walkie-talkies are still beneficial. If you have a neighbor that might be, you might be working with, because I'm a good thing is to form like a group family, like a neighborhood group that protects each other. Everybody has different things they bring to the scenario. Some people can cook really well. Some people can hunt really well. That's my neighbor. Some people can be violent. I don't know those people, but you need all of those people to protect each other. And, you just have to know who you can trust going into those situations. Another thing is a good knife. All kinds of different knives, whether protection or just, cutting things open or whatever. Yeah. I know you're at your house and you have all these things around your house that you can protect yourself with.
Conveniences.
Yes. I tell her too, she does as well. Carry a knife every time. Everywhere you go, just carry a little pocket knife. It doesn't have to be for protection. It can be used for that, but it can be just for cutting things open, or you might have a hem on your shirt that's, coming out and you want to cut it off. Just keep a knife for protection.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time camping, which we enjoy, and we primitive camp. And there have been multiple times where I've needed a knife, like even just a pocket knife, to take care of whatever food I'm cooking, whatever the situation may be. It's very useful to have that on hand.
Jeffrey, yeah, CB radios. I actually have a CB radio. I haven't picked out a handle yet because I can't. Every time I put my CB radio back in my truck, I can't pick up anybody. So, but yeah, a CB radio, because that's going to be a way to get a hold of somebody. And if we're going to go with a vehicle, make sure you keep extra gas cans filled up, keep the gas tanks in your vehicles full or close to full if you have to bug out.
Yeah, we've seen lines at the gas station before too, on multiple occasions.
Oh yeah, I remember being a kid and seeing lines. I think it was an oil embargo going on, and and the lines were just miles long, pretty much. William says battery prices are highly. Yes. Shop, like Erica said, shop for batteries. Don't just buy the first batteries. Sometimes these things are made by the same people, meaning that if you buy Everready, you could also buy Delco, and it might be made at the same place by the same people.
Yeah.
Clothes are the same way, but that's the kind of stuff you have to look into. Shop around,
ask various industries on products that use batteries. Don't just go with one person, and see what they have to say on what's the most reliable, or again, the longest shelf life.
Right. I bought Duracell. I guess I probably shouldn't drop their name, not a sponsor, so nobody is. So I bought Duracell before, thinking that these were the copper top batteries. These were the ones with the longest life, and they didn't have, their life was just as long as every other battery. So I just didn't, I started buying other brands because they weren't really any different. When you throw a fancy word like platinum or copper top or whatever, that's just getting people to buy it. That's all that is. So also, one thing I wanted to say is after the North Carolina and Tennessee incidents, East Tennessee, the hurricane that came through and flooded everything out. Another thing is, and please, and I think go to Pyros.
Look at his comment.
Hey, music's always good.
Yeah.
Music's always good. Don't count on FEMA showing up. Don't count on the government showing up to protect you.
That one?
Yeah. So never count on the government. The government they'll help sometimes, but we learned this past year that the government was FEMA was running out of money or whatever because they were doing certain things they didn't need to be doing. But the people in North Carolina weren't being taken care of. We know they were skipping houses. We won't go down that road, but it's just really sad that we don't need to trust our government. Our object is to survive on our own. The government should never be in charge of taking care of us, just protecting us. We should take care of ourselves. Yes, it's nice they do things like that, but look at North Carolina. Look at Maui. Look at LA. So just saying. Another thing that I suggest are these solar banks. These are simply for charging things. You can charge your phone if it still works. Get it up higher. You can get these on Amazon. There's different brands, but this one's done us great. When our power was out for a day and a half, I think this worked great on charging phones, charging whatever you needed to charge. It's got 4 USB ports and a C and I don't know what the other one's called, but whatever. It's the old iPhone.
Solar is really obviously the best way to go if you can afford it.
Yeah, they are. Everything's solar is expensive, but it lasts longer. And
I think that was about $50. I probably got it on sale, but definitely worth the investment because there's no thinking about it. If you just like I'll usually put it on a windowsill. If I'm, I need to charge this, I don't have to take it outside. If it's colder weather out, I'll just put it on a windowsill. And then that's all you got to think about.
Matches, lighters, all the different forms of lighters, stock up on those. I don't smoke. She doesn't smoke, but we have lots of matches, lots of lighters, and a few torches that we use for the fire pit and everything. And don't forget, another thing you can do is you can sit around a fire if you have a fire pit, depending on the time of the year it is, to warm up or to cook on. I'm sure she'll talk about that. But also over my shoulder here, another thing, we have a gas heater. So a natural gas heater works great to keep your house warm. When you bug in, if it's an SHTF scenario, pick a room in your house that's comfortable for you to be in. Pick a room that you can keep warm, that you can protect yourself in. If it's got too many windows, maybe that's not the room you want. But there are different reasons for picking a room in a scenario. Like we have a house that has an upper level. So obviously the upper level we wouldn't want to stay in. We would want to stay in the lower level, and it would probably be the back room in our house. We have a heater back there that's not electric. Well, no, that one is electric. Never mind. But we would put propane heater in there and vent it. And that's the kind of things you need to think about. All of this stuff you need to think about. Jeffrey, okay. He has to have Yes, excellent. We'll get into some of that stuff with Erica. I'm just going through some of the stuff. She's the I'm the gun guy, or the pew pew guy. I'm the guy that with the knives. I'm the guy that's gonna hunt, kill, whatever. If I told her it's like you need to go kill that deer, she would be like, no.
Well, it depends on the whole situation.
Go kill that squirrel. No, that's Bambi or whatever. I don't know.
I got to take the big picture in.
So anyway, another good thing to have around your house in an SHTF scenario. Yeah, and I thought about that, Gary. We have both as far as being able to heat. The natural gas at the house on the attached, and then we have a propane heater out there that we could use. We have plenty of propane tanks for that. I believe, because her and I talked about that earlier, that if the grid goes down, the stations that supply the natural gas probably can't send that out. I don't know, but I'm assuming they can't. So, and yes, but there is a ton of prepping survival tips and tricks. Learn all you can. We're just trying to get people to maybe start prepping. I think most of you that I know, which is everybody here, and other people outside of here, are already prepping to an extent, are already starting to prepare, or have been preparing for if a grid scenario goes down or for a big storm. Because I know now that I see that, William's here, I'm sure, and William, probably Phyllis and John have had to worry about hurricane scenarios. Moggs and Stevie, that stuff happens, and that's a different type of prepping for me. I haven't had to deal with it. There's things for your windows. There's ways if you're staying to protect your house, whatever. We're looking at what happens around us. So wherever you live, whatever you experience the most, prepare for it. Just whether it's a thunderstorm and you expect power to go out, just be smart. Like I said in the beginning, have your milk. You should always have your milk. You should always have toilet paper. Don't wait till it's almost out and then, oh my God, a storm's coming up, and then rush to the store and buy it. Always have it. Be prepared at all times, like the world's going to end, because some of us kind of believe that we're kind of getting to that point. So another thing is to keep around the house are fire extinguishers. I've got this one, which is kind of a spray can. I'm not sure exactly. And then I've got an actual.
Make sure that you read the directions so you know how to use any equipment.
Yes.
And that goes for anything. It goes for your methods of heating, whatever you're using,
Ventilation.
whatever type. Ventilation. You want to follow the manufacturer's warranty, all of those details. Make sure you know how to use it. Don't just buy it and let it sit there. You don't want to be stuck if you need it in an emergency.
Yeah, it's there's always pay attention to what you buy. Learn to use what you buy. Just don't buy it and then throw it in a cabinet. And then when the time comes, go, oh God, how do we use this? Prepare for it. Even if you have a family, run down this scenario. What if we lose power for a week, and then have each person in your family have a specific job? Do this. You prepare for this. Who's going to do food? Who's going to do this? Have those plans drawn up so your whole family knows about it. Because if you're not, and then SHTF hits, or a tornado hits, or a hurricane, and you're not quite prepared for it, then you're going to be like a lot of other people out there that didn't prepare for it and be wanting to get that toilet paper and everything else that comes with it. Blackie is correct. New Orleans power goes down during a hurricane. The water pumps go down also. The water starts to rise. Yeah. Well, I believe New Orleans is also in a bowl, isn't it, William? Like
it's underneath.
Under sea level.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. I remember then when the Katrina, the levee broke and flooded almost all of New Orleans, which is, can't even imagine. We live on top of a mountain. So, well, not on top of a plateau. So we don't have to worry about flooding per much. We worry about flash flooding here. But, some places don't. Know your area of where you live and what protection you'll need and what you need to do to survive.
Yeah. And if you need, contact your local extension office. They can give you details on
absolutely
your area and the weather and gardening, which we will get into later. But they will help you. That's why they're there.
Another thing. Oh God, this is a big one. Tarps. This is a big tarp. It's probably backwards to you, I think. But anyway, tarps. These are very useful for a lot of reasons. You can get water with these. You can obviously hide things with these. We bought a tarp that is brown on the outside that kind of matches the brown around the outside of our house, and then it's some kind of green on the inside. But we used tarps to keep our firewood dry. We use tarps to you can use tarps to block out the sun if you need shade. You can use tarps during the rain to collect rainwater. But she's going to get into that stuff. So I think that's pretty much for what I have. Let me look at one more time. Weather apps on your phone. Get as many weather apps as you can. It doesn't hurt to have those. If you don't lose cell activity, then those weather apps will let you know, your weather, your tornadoes
Mhm.
might be coming in, your thunderstorms. So get there's some good ones out there. Research which are the best. I believe that I have my radar. I have what's the big one I have? Anyway, I keep track of those. I keep a local on here. It's not really local, and it's the worst one I have. But anyway, um, I think she's going to get into personal hygiene stuff. And okay, never mind. So anyway, that's about all I have. I look forward to anybody in chat giving me more that we might need,
Mhm.
because we also take notes when you guys talk to us. You all live in different areas.
Mhm.
You prepare in different ways for different things, and that's what we want to know, because we're trying to take care of every situation we run into. So another great thing before I turn it over to Erica, every man's favorite thing, duct tape, because we can fix damn near anything with duct tape. We can create things with duct tape, and it burns well too. So duct tape is awesome. Keep plenty of duct tape on hand. There's all kinds of brands. I think this is actual duct tape, not duct tape. This is duct tape for ducks. But anyway, I've got monster tape, gorilla tape, stuff that anyway, I got good tape. Anyway, I turn it over to Erica. She's got some great stuff going. So hit it up.
So I'm gonna start here and say, Bud, hope you're healing well from your knee surgery. And I know you commented earlier on that. Leanne has had something health related, and she said she's trying to heal. So we're thinking of y'all.
Jim's camera at Dawn. Great to see you here. Thank you.
And then Misty said she's planting taters. But she's been active on the chat, so we appreciate that. We always love to have you here. And I just want to draw attention to this real quick. Just catching up from the previous comments before we move on.
Thank you for that, Pyro. Yes.
And we got Rusty here.
Yeah, I agree with that, really. I am one of those people that love storms. Somebody else could film it for me so I could leave town. That would be fine. But I might also be one of those people that would, if I had a place that I thought was strong enough to survive it, that I would like to see one, but I would probably also be the guy that got wiped away by the water. So anyway. And yes, Erica is going to get into that, Bud. Thank you. We've got lots of ways to take care of your water issues in that in those SHTF scenarios. And let's just go with SHTF. We're talking about tornadoes, and because that's pretty much shit hitting the fan too. So, a lot of people sit there, hear the tornado warning, and they might go, well, let's go to the bathroom. But they don't think about everything else they really need to do prior to when a big storm comes in. Let's go to the bathroom and cover our heads, or take blankets in and wear a helmet, or whatever, or I say bathroom, in the center of your house. And then they forget that if your house is wiped away, you have nothing. You have no food, you have no water. Yeah. So if you're going to go to the safest spot in your house, take some bottles of water with you.
Absolutely,
or have it stored there. Do things like that. Don't wait till the last minute to have this kind of protection or safety. So like we have, to be honest, this is one of my tornado helmets. This goes under our steps. We have a storage area under our steps. So if there's a tornado warning, I grab this and one of my goalie helmets from when I played hockey, and that goes into the bathroom, and we wear these if we have to, if the storm's going to be big enough, because the noggin's not, that skull's pretty good, but to get hit in the head with something will knock you down and probably kill you the worst. So prepare for that.
We got this one.
Yeah, baling wire would be great too. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with baling wire.
Well, she's Theta girl. No, she's a country girl.
But I am familiar with zip ties.
Zip ties. Got lots of zip ties.
If we need to citizens arrest someone.
They
are very useful.
We have a ton of zip ties, every different size. That was something that we bought to prep with because you can do a lot of different things with it, hang things from trees. There were a lot, and yes, definitely a good pair of two-way radios.
I'm all about like multi-tool, all about thinking of other uses for products. And I will probably do a show on that because I love it that much.
Okay, fire away, kid. You're up.
Hold on, we're
Oh, you're still
catching
going
up.
through stuff? I believe that, Pyro.
I have been, I used to live, I don't know, 7 hours from where I was raised. And so I spent plenty of time on the road. And one time, there was no like holiday weekend. There wasn't going to be, extra travel that weekend. But where I would normally fill up, it was out of gas. Went to the next gas station, out of gas. And that's an alarming feeling. It's not good when you're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Well, we had that coming down to Tennessee from Ohio before, where gas stations like Meyer stations were out of gas. And I can't remember what it was for, if it was because of the C-19 thing or what it was. But I don't know how C-19 would have anything to do with gas. But I also don't know how toilet paper had anything to do with it anyway.
Absolutely, bud. Bungee cords are a great investment and they are not expensive.
And we
They
have a ton of those as well.
Okay, let's see.
We're just going through the chat.
Yeah, just catching up before we move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Y'all are funny. I love it. Okay, so I will start here. I have more topics to cover than him, but we're going to, that's not like a weird comment, by the way. just preparing y'all. So we're going to talk about the seasons, and you may be out of electricity in the winter or in the summer, during the most extreme temperatures. So if it's the summertime, and advice would be to wear loose and lightweight clothing, use natural ventilation. We're talking about bugging in. So if you're in your home,
or be naked,
or wherever you happen to be, hopefully you're at your most comfortable area. Open the windows. It may help with a breeze or for the heat escaping. So, and then draw the curtains of a window that it's the sunniest spots. And also, we would do that anyway. This can be like normal everyday living to help with energy conservation. But if possible, you can utilize solar or battery powered fans,
which we've done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've spent a lot of time camping. So and to me, I enjoy camping, primitive camping, just knowing that I have these skills or learning new skills. I absolutely love that. Absolutely drink plenty of water. And on that topic, water, the general rule of thumb is to have 1 gallon of water per person per day. So that will put it into perspective of how much water you should have on hand. Again, you're not always going to know that you're going to be out of power, but just think about that. 1 gallon of water per person per day to help survive, because you cannot survive without water. You can survive longer without food, but you cannot survive without water. And I will wait on these until we get there. Okay, keep your refrigerator and freezer doors closed.
Keep going.
I have found on the internet, it says a freezer that is half full or full can keep foods frozen 24 to 48 hours, but you absolutely do not open that door. Foods can stay safe in an unopened refrigerator for up to 4 hours. If an outage lasts longer, remove and pack meat, milk, and other dairy products in a cooler with ice. So we're talking about the hot summer months right now. And then as far as preparing food, use outdoor grills. If you have any outdoor grill, you don't want to do anything indoors if you don't have electricity. Just make sure you read the manufacturer's instructions. And ventilation is typically the issue, which is why you don't want to bring things indoors. But, if we're talking about hotter months here, you don't want to bring any unnecessary heat inside your home anyway. But a grill outside will absolutely help.
Or if you can have a bonfire or whatever.
Mhm.
She cooks on it all the time,
Yep.
makes the most excellent food on it.
Yep. We'll get there a little more later. But so just think about how you can cook outdoors. Now we're going opposite. We're going into the winter. If you do not have, in any of these situations, if you have a generator, that's awesome. Like we talked about before, a solar powered is even better because it's more quiet and you really don't want to draw attention. So, gas heat or propane, you have other options other than electric. Again, so we're in winter, dress in layers to help keep warm. Absolutely gloves, head wrap. Don't forget about things like that. That's where we lose a lot of heat. Hand warmers. We have hand warmers, and they make these in all sorts of sizes and brands. We don't have a particular favorite, but hand warmer, toe warmers.
They're all just different sizes is what they are.
Yeah, different sizes. And then they have a super warmer and a mega warmer.
And what's really cute about those, I guess if you want to say, is we don't have a trash service here. We have to take our stuff to the dump, and her and I will take little packets of those up to the guys that sit out there in the cold and have to take care of the trash, and they're always appreciative of it.
Mm-hmm.
These things do keep you warm.
They do.
As a ex-hockey player, soccer coach, playing in the cold and everything, slipping those into your gloves or slipping those into your pant pockets and keeping your hands in there, they work awesome. Keep your legs warm. If you wear cargo pants in the winter, throw those things in your pockets, all those different pockets, and you are good to go.
Yeah. And again, with layers, absolutely fleece lined if you can do that. And they have inexpensive ones out there. So, but that helps a ton. And so back to those warmers, they have battery powered and solar powered hand warmers also. So that would be a step up. Blankets, not just blankets, but also weighted blankets. Mylar blankets, which are really convenient to pack if you're tight on space.
I meant to grab one of those. They usually come in a pack of just about that size.
I mean, it's really about like this.
And
it's hardly anything. Doesn't take up much room.
And all they do is they attract the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So it just heats up from your body on the inside and the sun on the outside.
Yep. And candles would be my last thing to rely on because that really becomes a safety issue. Potentially, you don't want to leave those unattended. I'll put it that way.
And it's funny, we think about that, but we think about our ancestors, and that's how they lit everything.
Yeah. Or the oil lantern.
Or the oil lanterns, exactly. You drop an oil lantern, you might as well just count on your house burning down. Because there were no fire extinguishers back then. But
speaking of fire extinguishers, baking soda will extinguish a fire.
Yeah. And there's different types of fire extinguishers. We know this. There's water, there's dry chemical. I think there's even another one now, foam. So they put out different types of fires. Mm-hmm. Again, whatever you need for your house.
Okay, so along with blankets, we have, even here in Tennessee, we've had the point where sub-freezing, maybe not sub-zero, but consistent days of freezing temperatures where we've covered our windows with blankets. So I'll take a thumbtack and put it on the frame of the window is how I have done it. If it's, you need to consider the weight of the blanket and what it's made of and all that stuff. But that helps We do make a habit of closing our windows with that plastic film when we know it's going to be colder weather, and that seems to block a lot of the coldness from coming in. And then just if you have to bug in the colder weather, pick the warmest area, the warmest room really of your home, and try to stay there as a family. Try to support each other and try to make it through.
Make sure it's a comfortable room that you like to be in. That's maybe got a couch or two that you can sleep on, or some recliners. We have behind us, we have 2 recliners here and then a couch over here. Make sure that it's an easily securable room. We have in our kitchen family room area, we have a back bedroom that we have a bedroom door that we can secure. And then we have a front door that we can secure. So we can secure these areas. Make sure that, security is going to be a big thing if it's an SHTF scenario. If it's just a storm scenario, and you're going to be out for a day, maybe a week, then you probably won't have to worry about that as much.
Let's see what that is. Disposable tablecloths.
Yes.
Oh, that is an interesting
point.
Thank
you, Jim. Yeah.
I like that. Again, all about
that's why
thinking outside of the box. That's what I'm all about.
In Yerington, yes, sleeping bags are huge for all kinds of reasons. Not just sleeping in, but using them for, sleeping on, putting those over your windows. Was if you've got that many sleeping bags, that's just that much more warmth you're going to have.
Yep. Sleeping bags for sure. And then, you can, if you're in a weird situation, you can have, let's take, that was funny. Clothes. I said dress in layers, but you can take clothes and wad them up and use it as a pillow if you absolutely had to.
Or even shove it in a pillowcase and use it that way.
Yep. Okay, so next topic we're going to talk about is medicines. A lot of Americans are prescribed medications. I don't know anything about that. Okay, so that's the first point. I'm not a trained medical professional. But it is important to a lot of people and their medications, and read your instructions and read what may conflict with your medications. You want to make sure you know what you got and you know what you got to do. But I'm going to make this point. Anything I'm talking about, consider all the family members. Consider all of you who are trying to survive, and definitely consider your pets. Do not forget about your pets. Do they have medications? If you have a medication, does it need to be refrigerated? Okay. So make sure you prepare for that ahead of time as best as you can. That would be number one. But have a first aid kit available where you need it. Your vitamins and any minerals that you need, that you rely on, make sure you have those. Make sure you keep up on those. Get an extra one if you can. Try to get insurance to cover that if you can, whatever the situation is. Antibiotics, I wanted to put on here. I don't know if, Gary, you can add a post on here. You probably have it, but the Dark Angel Medical, if you can put a comment on here, that would be helpful.
I don't know if he's on DA's chat or not.
He probably is, but antibiotics, if I had to buy some, I personally would probably go through there. Any natural medications, any holistic type, anything that you rely on, or do your, oh goodness, do your research on what might be helpful. I always say we have this ability right now to get on the internet and search for anything that we want. That's not always going to be there. Rely on keeping a magazine around, keeping some books around. What do you need to reference? If we're completely out of power. And then hygiene products. So whatever age that might be, if you need diapers or pads or tampons or whatever, I always keep baby wipes, if that's what you want to call them. Those are super helpful for multi-uses. It definitely helps when we're camping. And hand sanitizer. You would want that around as well.
I think a good way to really think about all of this is if you were to primitive camp,
Yep.
what would you have on hand?
Yep.
And then remember that we sit at our fire pit and we look at our house like this is the life we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit out at our fire pit and we have a huge tent that we live in, which is our house. It's a little more convenient than living in a normal tent, but think about that when you're sitting at your house. If I was to primitive camp, what would I need? And then think of that for you. Think about that for your house.
Okay. So next we're going to move on to food prep. Okay, this is probably my favorite topic. And I'm going to feel like y'all are grocery shopping with me by the end of it. But, okay, the general rule of thumb, we're talking about food. Number one is water. Absolutely water. General rule of thumb is 1 gallon per person per day. Okay, so that's going to be for brushing your teeth. Oh, I didn't get those.
What?
Those
little toothbrushes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have
Can
these.
you grab some? They're under the sink.
Sure.
Okay. But anyhow, cleaning, not just drinking water, but cleaning your hands, cleaning whatever, a surface that you'll be cooking on, whatever the case may be, brushing your teeth, 1 gallon of water per person per day. And the second topic of importance, I would say, is again not opening your freezer or refrigerator doors. We're trying to preserve the food. Again, this may be a planned outage, or it might be we have no idea what's going on. So, and then we'll move on to produce, because that would be most likely what's going to go bad first. In my experience, the first thing that's going to go bad is bananas. Okay. Then we would move on to lettuce and arugula, cauliflower, carrots, lemons, and limes. Cabbage and beets last longer. And then apples and potatoes, garlic and onions. Of course, it depends on how long it's been sitting on your shelf. So we're talking about things that are out in the open already. We're not opening that door. So those are some things to consider. Of course, bread. You're going to have bread that's going to go bad pretty fast.
If I can say something about bread, learn to make your own bread, sourdough bread the best, because it's going to last a little longer and it's going to be a lot healthier for you. Mm-hmm. And it'll, compared to stored bread, which has got all the preservatives and all that stuff in, it's way less healthy and it doesn't last that long.
Yep. So that will go bad pretty fast. Tortilla shells will last a little longer if you had that option, and they're very good anyway. But okay, so I wanted to cover what, kind of like in a timeline of what you want to consume first, if that's what you want to say. I say you always want to consider who is with you, what they like, their allergies, what you all like together. We're not going to be comparing or preparing for anything that would be leftovers, really. We're going to try to consume what we have. And keep in mind, how you're going to cook anything and boil your water without electricity. These are things you might want to look up. But we have a fire pit here. If you have a gas grill, that would be very helpful. It is helpful for like the canned heat. There are different brands that can be helpful for warming up foods and water.
These are like the cans when you go to a wedding or something, or a buffet, and they've got them underneath the buffet trays or whatever the warming trays. We bought a bunch of those because you can use them for all kinds of stuff.
Yep. And a propane grill or a charcoal grill. Okay, so that's for the foods that we need to cook. Along with water, sports drinks, something to help with electrolytes. Powdered milk, I feel like, is something that's pretty overlooked. But if you have an option to boil water, the powdered milk would really help because, we were talking about weather before. We're not running out to the store to prepare and buying a gallon of milk. We've already got powdered milk here.
Right.
We don't have to run to the store for that. Or it may be the base of something that you need to cook. Yep, that's a brand. And that will help if you have powdered milk on hand. It's very shelf stable, and that's really what we're looking for in this situation. Okay, we'll move on to boxed foods, cereal, if you like cereal, granola bars, power bars, anything to help with that. Canned fruits. Fruits are definitely something because, they're going to go bad. Canned vegetables, canned meats and beans, soups and chilies, and pasta and sauce. You have kind of the already prepped stuff out there, and rice. Peanut butter is definitely a reliable standby. It will stay safe, on your shelf. Don't forget about seasonings, though. That to you might be sugar, salt, and pepper. But if you're familiar with other seasonings, that can really help break the monotony of more bland foods. And crackers are another good standby. So those can be combined with a lot of different things. But whatever you do, I just, I hope you know that you have the option to do it, to prepare, and it's not scary to you or anything. But I brought some foods along, and like I said, beans in a can. That's another thing to consider. Is it going to be in a carton or is it going to be in a can? Where you live and the scenarios that you need to plan for, like William, maybe it really, really depends on the types of products and their packaging that you buy. But we have lots of beans that you can make. I wanted to throw this out there. So we have the beans in this wrapper.
Take it to the camera.
This is from Thrive Market, which I highly recommend. Okay, so they're not the cheapest, but if you have particular food needs and dietary restrictions, it's super easy to shop with them. It's very convenient. And when they do have sales, they have great sales. Soups, the always dependable. Okay. Unfortunately, when we're preparing for this, it might not necessarily be the healthiest, but we're just trying to survive at this point.
At
okay.
That point. Like we try to live a pretty normal, healthy lifestyle, but SHTF scenario or just, tornado, hurricane scenario, you want what's going to keep you alive.
Yep. So like with canned, well, I say canned, but so this is something, the tunas, they make them now, quinoa and beans. Okay, so it's not just tuna. We've got barley and beans. Okay, so that gives you some more options. We're trying to add as much nutrition as possible. But we got rice and beans there, different flavors. So I just wanted to point that out if y'all haven't seen that at the store yet.
And there's some really good ones. But some of the spicy ones, there's a Frank's Red Hot one.
Or here's a regular old tuna, but it's already seasoned. Okay, so this can be a survival situation, or it can be you trying to pack light for a trip or for camping or whatever.
Yes, Jeffrey.
Some of the things I wanted to bring up, this will be easier to see. Things that all you need is water, and these are very healthy for you, okay? So this is a probiotic mix, and all you need is water. It's very minimal, and it's very healthy. I will probably do a show just on this. Okay, so we have those things. I have another from Thrive Market which is an organic beet powder. This is one of my favorites because it comes from Tennessee and because the ingredients are so clean. This is a bone broth protein.
And I will say it's very tasty.
All you need is water. You can mix it in with something else, but it will help you with protein. Again, we're probably not going to get the best nutrition if this is, red beans and rice in a pouch. There are so many options. Again, if we're shopping for this, we're shopping for something on the directions that doesn't require a microwave. A lot of these are microwave based. But another from Ancient Nutrition, organic super greens. Okay. It says Energizer. It has different ingredients in that for a natural boost. Instant coffee. These all just need water.
And that mushroom coffee is not real. It's a good tasting coffee. And I'm telling you, it'll start you up in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, that's mine.
Mushroom blend hot chocolate. These you just need water. And it doesn't even have to be hot water, okay? It's the best. Really try to plan for things like that. But along with the broth, I have this also. I do a lot of low or no salt. And these are just individual packets. So if you're going on a trip, that really helps. You hardly doesn't take any room. Again, these are low sodium. So if you have dietary restrictions like that, it's very helpful. On the other hand, this is what I recommend for salt. It's out of Utah and it's an ancient sea salt. And I love that it's from the United States.
And as a kid, I used to play on sea salts, back and forth like this. That was pretty cool.
So, speaking of salt, I'll pass that one up. Okay. Again, we can't rely on refrigeration. Here is a ghee. Okay. So it's like a butter substitute and that can be room temperature. So we're not worried about refrigeration with that. And then back to the produce kind of reference. These are just little packets. Okay. True lemon and true lime. They are nothing like additives in here. They're very natural. So those are options to help. We want, we don't want bland meals as much as possible. And then they have freeze-dried foods. And also, if you really want to make it easier on you.
There you go, Gary. There's your MRIs.
Okay. They're not the healthiest. Again, we're just mostly worried about survival.
There's so many different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got, what's this one?
This is
biscuits and gravy for breakfast. We've got sweet and sour pork.
Buttermilk biscuits with gravy and pork patty crumble.
Breakfast skillet. And I've got quite a few more in there.
And this is another thing where we've done this on camping trips before, where we test it out and see how it works.
Some of them are damn good.
They are really good. But again, don't forget you can add seasonings if it's not your, seasonings. Don't have to worry about refrigeration really. Also snacks. This is one of my favorites. Okay. It's seaweed snacks.
Okay. So I will say this. When she starts pulling out seaweed snacks and she's like, it looks like a little thin piece of paper. And she's like, I'm like, there is no way in hell you can get me to eat that stuff. So last night she says, okay, try this. It's whatever. It's seaweed. And I was like, whatever, I'll try it. I was impressed. I never thought I would eat seaweed, but it tasted very good.
Yes.
And it's very healthy.
And the reason why I bring that up is because it's not, we can eat potato chips all day if you want. But just thinking outside of the box, and that offers different minerals than what you would have with other stuff. And you do need to prepare if you're like a little Debbie kind of person. Have a little extra of those on hand.
And we're not saying anything bad about little Debbie's. That's still getting food into your system is what matters. So if you're
Yeah.
a King Don guy or a Little Debbie or a whatever cookie, get them. I
Just
mean,
as much to keep your creature comforts on hand
absolutely.
as much as you can. Applesauce. Don't forget about applesauce. Okay. These are just some things I wanted to bring up because if you're used to things and you're out of power for long term, you're not going to want to deal with the headaches or confusion. There might be some mood changes with the situation. Another part about that, board games. I said before, magazines and books, but board games. Make sure you have things that on hand that are not just electronic based.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I will end. We're going to go into some methods of heating. Again, I will end with that. But wood burning stoves or fireplaces, propane heaters, a couple I have not heard of on here. So, kerosene heaters, pellet stoves.
On your kerosene heaters and other things, make sure that you follow directions on the type of ventilation you're supposed to use. We definitely don't want anybody dying of carbon monoxide poisoning or gas or whatever.
Or anything.
Yeah, we don't want people dying. How's that? That works. But anyway, please.
Okay, pellet stoves, rocket mass heaters, which sounds masonry heaters, and candles or lanterns, like we covered before. I think I've heard of that before, William.
And William, that's probably the same in the town we live in,
Yeah.
to be quite honest with you.
I mean, if you smoke cigarettes or whatever, you're probably going to want to stash up. I don't know. You know, you just want, you want to do as much as you can without going overboard and trying to keep your sanity.
So, yeah, okay. So Michael said, Haywood says we should get Snickers because of mood changes. And
Yep.
apparently that's a true thing. I've seen.
Yep.
But that's a sugar thing. I mean, some people can, eat that. And some people, I like Snickers. So
I have never heard of that, Jim.
Oh.
That is very interesting. And that's why we're here. We're here to learn these things.
Yes.
So we love it. We love preparing as much as possible. It's not the time. Okay. I wanted to make this point. It's not the time to make changes if you're without power. If you're able to prepare and buy ahead of time, buy what you're used to. Don't buy things just because they're on sale and you think you might like it. That's not the things to stock up on.
And make sure you're buying things that you're not just buying them because we said, or a website you went to said, buy things that you're happy eating, that you're comfortable with. You don't want to go into and like, oh God, I got to eat this seaweed again. If you don't like it, then don't get it. Get something you like. Just make sure you're putting nutrients into your body. You could also stock up on vitamins. You can, and those are going to be good no matter what.
And these things will give you that stuff too.
Absolutely.
So that kind of takes care of it all in one. But I was talking about the Redmond sea salt, which is out of Redmond, Utah, which is awesome. And they also make, I mentioned electrolytes earlier. They make these packets. They make them in canisters also. But this is 0 calorie Re-Lyte, RELYTE hydration. And that can help if you're needing, another way. It's a flavored salt. It's, I would say, healthier than a lot of those brands you see out there for hydration.
One of the things I forgot to mention is make sure you have in your house, and I'm sure most of us men have it, is a small toolkit or a large toolkit, something that you can fix things with around the house in an SHTF scenario. Have wrenches, screwdrivers, hammers, whatever you think. Just think about what's in your house and what you might need to fix that. Mm-hmm. Keep that. We have a storage place under, like I said, our stairs that I keep a toolbox. It's got all the tools I need to do whatever.
Yeah. No, like practice. Sometimes I'll quiz Chad. Like, hey, where do we keep this? Or if this situation happened, what would you do? Or if this happened, who would you call? Where would you go? Because we don't want to just wait until it's an emergency. But Know where your things are, because we have like a flashlight in every single room. Know where you keep them. I usually keep them in a certain area of the cabinet, because if you all of a sudden had no power, it helps to be able to feel your way through a situation, through memory and how things feel.
We also keep cordless hole punchers in every room in the house with freedom seeds, because you never know, what could happen or where you're at. I'm getting ready to say what else. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. Another, this will be my last product, I believe. I love these. When we were camping, you don't have to worry about water. Really, I mean, probably still, but they're so cool. They have toothpaste already inside, and then they're kind of rough, but I asked my dentist and he said they wouldn't be damaging, that they're okay to use. And then they have a little hook on the end, like a toothpick. I love these things for a trip.
And Mark, that's not a bad thing. And good to see you, Mark. I'm glad you're here. But your calorie intake probably should double at that time. You're going to be eating less.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you're taking in more calories is probably a better thing to keep your energy up. That's one thing you need to worry about. Now, I don't eat a lot in any way. I wish I could, but I always feel full whenever I eat. But I would rather eat something that's going to have 1,200 calories in it at one sitting than I would try to get so many calories per day. So if I could eat bacon cheeseburger with, whatever on it, I'm going to be completely happy with that. But yes, your calories in these situations, that's important, because that's actually giving you more energy and warmth, because the more energy you have in your body, the more your body creates warmth. So you really need to worry about that. Thank you, Mark, for that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anything we can learn together, y'all.
Oh yeah. And since Bud brought this up, learn CPR. As a ex high school soccer coach, we had to learn CPR. We had to learn how to use a defibrillator. And it's really nice to know. It's easier than you can imagine to learn both of them nowadays, especially defibrillator is super easy. But learning CPR is something everybody should know, just to, you never know what could happen. Basic first aid is awesome. Learn how to tie knots. There's plenty of websites, books that you could get to learn how to tie different knots for different scenarios. I know one day we're going to hopefully have a first aid show that we can teach people how to do things like that, or just show you. But I highly suggest everybody learn now, because you never know what you're going to need that scenario for, what you're going to need to know how to keep somebody alive, if in a CPR situation or a drowning situation, or even a car wreck or a stroke, to know how to do that stuff is what you need how to work on. So yeah, learn how to make floaters. Yeah, why not? That's a good idea.
Oh, wow. There are so many tools online, and shortcuts. And one of the things we didn't cover, we made this candle. Okay. Is it Riverside Homestead Life? Okay.
But go ahead. You can do it.
So I just used an old jar of pickles.
There's lots of empty pickle jars around this house.
And anyhow, it's filled with Crisco. And I don't think you can see the detail there. There you go. Inside is just a candlestick.
With a wick in it.
Because the Crisco will burn, but we need the wick in there. So that's an emergency backup candle.
Because if you don't know, if you look at a Crisco container, above the eye on Crisco is a flame.
Mm-hmm.
You can use Crisco for whatever, but it was originally intended for it to be something you could burn. So it burns like a candle. And there are one of the things that we didn't mention, or you can use Crisco and terracotta pots to make room heaters.
He has another show on that too.
Riverside Homestead. It's he's good. He's got a lot of good information. He's another prepper. You can go balls out to be a prepper and go stockpile everybody, but do what's comfortable for you. Don't think that you need to build another barn to keep all these prepping supplies in for, if you want to survive years and years, because you might not want to survive years and years when the shit hits the fan. You might just want to get by with your family and maybe move to another location. If you have to bug out, you have to, and that's another show, is a bug out show. But if you have to bug out, you're taking minimal supplies. So all those supplies that you had to bug in with, they're not coming with you. So somebody's going to eventually find your bug out supply and take or bug in supply and take a lot of your bug in supply. So that's another thing you have to think about. Don't over supply yourself. Now you can with water and you can with whatever essential little food you need, but don't do too much as far as everything. And don't go out buy 10 sleeping bags unless you have 10 people living in your house or these types of things. Just, right. Oh, you put it on there.
And make sure you rotate. Make sure you're aware of the expiration date so that you rotate the products as needed.
And also remember that the expiration dates aren't always the expiration dates. Learn it. So go on and if it's an unopened container, most of them are sell by dates. So a sell by date is nothing compared to an expiration date.
How was it stored?
Right.
We've had gallons of water that have leaked. We've had some messes from that. And we've also had where evaporation occurred.
Yeah.
You got to think of the big picture with all of that. And again, with William and people living in areas like that, is it better to have canned foods, or is it better for other types of packaging?
Right.
What will last longer and what will stay safe long?
And yes, Patrick, that's great. We'll talk about that on the bug out as maps, compasses, all that stuff. But we won't get into that with this one because that's another 2 or 3 hours right there, which I'm okay with, but I don't have everything here to talk about that. But yes, always know the area you live in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop there.
Yep. Yeah. So we knew we'd love this show, and we have plenty to talk about it, but we hope that it's been helpful to you. And
would there be anybody wanting to come on and talk about anything right now? Because we'll put the link in.
Yeah, we can share.
If anybody wants to hop in here and give their opinions on what you need to do, that would be great. If not, no big deal. We've gone over, we're an hour and 18, but we're up for more. If anybody has any other ideas of what people can do,
or if anybody wants to be on our bugging out episode,
we'll gladly have a guest on a bugging out episode. Even though we've prepped for bugging in and bugging out with our backpacks and our storage stuff that we have in our vehicles, you never know what somebody else might tell you that might help. So, and yes, Jim, that is very true. I've had to use that quite a few times.
That's very helpful info. So
yes. And I'm not sure if I'm right with this, but if you have a well, don't you have a well pump? So if the electricity goes down, does your well pump work? I don't have a well. I have city water. Awesome. Oh, that's good.
Awesome, bud.
Absolutely awesome, bud.
Love
I highly
it.
suggest it. Again, that's and yes, thank you all you vets. Excellent. Unfortunately, I've got a lot of military flags in my house from my ancestors that have passed that did serve. I did not serve. I was that rebellious kid, but I am a huge pro-military, pro-service guy, and I will back them till no end. But no, Chad, it didn't work, but I have a well bucket. Okay. Let me put that up there. I was always curious about that. I've never had well water, so I don't know how they work, but that's great information, Gary. Thank you.
Borrow. Oh, let's bring Jeff on.
I agree. Is Jeff there?
He said, I have a few things I could talk about.
Come on, Jeff. But yes, pyro, absolutely. Bow and arrow, crossbow, absolutely. I've always wanted to get a crossbow, so maybe that's my next toy instead of another gun. Or maybe I'll buy a gun and a crossbow. I don't know. We'll give it a shot, right?
Come on, Jeff.
The good thing is that she promotes me buying guns. She's like, well, go buy another gun. I'm like, oh, what? What do I buy this time? A cannon would be kind of cool.
Cannon.
Yeah.
Jeff's gonna come on the show.
But again, everybody that's given us some tips, that's great. We're hoping we helped a little bit.
Right.
I mean, most of this is just kind of, in my opinion, common knowledge, but I say that because we've been doing this. We didn't move to an area that we really wanted to move into. We kind of wanted to move out in the middle of nowhere. But where we moved ended up having great neighbors that had the same philosophies as we do. And, you know, our thing is to, you know, I told her we'll protect our neighbors. You know, I'm always doing the walk around the yard, looking at other people's houses and making sure everything's okay. Nobody's trying to break into anybody. You know, I'm that neighborhood watch guy that everybody talks to. So
yeah, that's a great point, Verby. That was on my list, but I didn't put it. And then this other thing is on my list too. Ready?
And this is a mixer.
Yeah, for those mixes, all the powder mixes I have, because it's battery powered, and that would really help to stir it up if we're using one of those powder mixes. But yes, a can opener and whatever utensils you need. And then sometimes I like to, I think it's a compostable plates that I use.
Yes, it is.
Because you can just throw those in the fire after. And I refuse to burn any plastics in my fire pit or anything that's questionable that might contain chemicals. But that is very nice that you do donate those. That's very helpful. And I've never thought of that.
I know when the North Carolina thing went on, I'll tell you a little story about that. Her and I were on our way to the Woodwalkers meet and greet at Talladega, and we broke down. And some young men, I will say they're their early 20s, mid 20s maybe, stopped and helped us pull our truck off the road or pull our SUV off the road. And they actually had this beautiful diesel truck with big trailer on the back, and they were headed to North Carolina to help with all of the
Hurricane
Helena stuff. So it was really cool that there were people like that. And we are that same type of people. We would, if we could donate, we'll donate. I mean, I've always been that way, and she's that way. You know, we just want to help people that don't have the opportunity. And when you lose everything, which is one reason we're talking about, you know, prepping to an extent. Not everybody can afford to prep, obviously. Yeah. And a lot of the people in North Carolina, whether they prepped or not, would have lost all their preps unless they kept their preps somewhere, you know, uphill or, you know, so for the rest of us to prep, I would help somebody with give them some of our preps to help them to get their life going again. So, and I think most of this group, if not all of this group, would be the same type of people. So,
yeah, that's the impression we get.
Jeff's probably doing his hair. He's waking up from a nap.
Stop.
Roger, anybody can hop on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're just talking prepping and different areas, and survival. Yeah. But we're doing bugging in today. Mm-hmm. So we want everybody to know what it is to bug in and the difference between that and bugging out.
Yep.
Because when we go through the bugging out thing, it's going to probably be a little bit longer. And, you know, I've got stuff sitting all around the house that I could show you for our bugging out stuff and in our cars.
Yeah, we'll have to get prepared for that.
It's just like somebody tells you about having a spare pair of clothes, a blanket, candy bar, a candle in your car for winter. That's basically what bugging out is, just to be prepared, whether you can drive your car or not, or you have to huff it on foot.
I have to talk about this. That's a great segue. Okay, I don't know if y'all have heard of this, and I don't know when it happened. 2019.
I heard about that.
Have you heard about the man that survived on Taco Bell sauce? Okay. Says he's an Oregon man. Survived on Taco Bell hot sauce packets while trapped in his car for 5 days during a blizzard. And I heard back then, actually, he had his dog with him too, and they both survived through Taco Bell seasoning packet.
How long were they trapped?
5 days.
5 days.
And, obviously his vehicle wasn't running that entire time. But I heard back then that they gave him like free Taco Bell for a year or something. But, you never know is the point of that story.
As long as you're taking in some kind of sustenance, something. I used to play competitive softball. We traveled state to state and played, and there was a tournament we were playing on, and the field temperature was 110 degrees. And we played, I think, 6 games in a row to make it to the championship. Then we took time off. Well, me and some other buddies were drinking beer all day. One of the guys was drinking water. The guy that drank water, we had to end up taking to the hospital for dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
And they pumped him with saline. And he asked, how come the guys that were drinking beer didn't suffer from dehydration? And they told him, because in beer, there's other things involved in beer: yeast, barley, hops.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually getting a little bit of nutrients out of that beer. Now, we know that alcohol dehydrates you,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that we just kept taking it in, and weren't, water has nothing. Water's water, hydrogen and oxygen. So that was something I learned that day, that, wow, I drank beer and I was okay. So, yeah. So, you learn things every day.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to text Jeff.
You can text Jeff?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to try to get Jeffrey on here.
He said he was experiencing
technical difficulties.
Yes.
That's your phone. How did I get your phone?
Welcome to the studio.
Well, I appreciate, we're not closing it yet, but we appreciate everybody coming in.
Absolutely.
We hope you, Roger's there.
He's still trying to get on.
Y'all have a link. Eric will post it, Raj.
Heck yeah, Roger. Bring it on. Oh, I am here now. We got too many devices here.
Eventually we'll have an actual studio, but
Well, that'll be the day. That'll be nice. Roger.
So, yeah. And if anybody, again, if anybody has any ideas for shows, I love to, what do you call it?
Brainstorm?
Not just brainstorm, but I love to look things up and study them and
research.
That's the word. I love to do that. So it wasn't something I loved to do in school, but I learned stuff that I really need to know now researching. So if you guys didn't have anything you would like to see a show on, that's what we're about. That's why it's the Oddcast podcast, because we're the Oddcast. This is the podcast, and Off the Record is for whatever we talk about. So if we talk about conspiracy theories or weather manipulation, that's how it works.
You can contact us through this email address.
I know Dr. Rusty has contacted us, and we'll be a part of a show. I think Erica's working on that, on what to do it about and everything. We've got some fantastic shows coming up. We've got one that she has got going on mental health, which will be, I think, a phenomenal show.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, it suffers from depression and probably has CTE from back when I used to fight in hockey. Probably have that. It's good to learn, those types of things, and I want to know all about it. So
it is a tentative date of May 25th, I believe, the day before Memorial Day. Yes.
Nice to know. Thank you, Pyro. See, this is things a lot of people don't know, so I'm glad you guys are sharing this.
Right.
I really do. I mean,
Thank
that's
you, Gary.
What we're in this about, for all of us to learn. I know so much about so many things, but I don't know everything, and I love learning more.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate it.
Thank you, Leanne.
And Gatorade and water if under 20. Here, we'll put that up there. Oh, wait, not that one.
I know. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. Although I was under 21, but I was grandfathered in, so it was okay. Us old people, We could drink beer at 18.
Oh, thank you, bud.
Yep. Thank you, bud.
Hope Angie's doing great too. Glad you're healing.
Well, is Jeffrey going to make it?
Yeah, I hadn't heard from Roger either.
Oh, really? Lan?
Aww.
The 27 Club is interesting. Again,
I feel like I heard about it at a random time, so you're not alone. It's very interesting, but also, they say there are other ones. They say there's a 28 Club and blah blah blah. You could probably just fill in the blank, but I think the 27 Club is the most popular.
yeah, because I said on last week's show that people die all the time, unfortunately, but whether it's 27, 28, 29, 30, 21, you could probably make clubs out of all of them. But
Right.
27 Club got big because of the main people that passed away during that.
Right.
So
it's actually kind of shocking still.
It won't let me.
It won't let me on.
Are you sure that's the link that gets on?
Share your link.
It says share your referral link. Does that mean
that's the one I've done before?
Go up and present or invite over here. See what that does.
No.
No, it doesn't have a link.
Documents and stuff.
You just highlighted everything.
You're silly. Okay, let me do this whole thing then. Maybe it's just one, all of that.
I don't think that's it.
Well, I'm going to do it. See if it'll do it that way.
Let's
try that
real
link.
quick. Okay, well, we're trying to figure out how to share a link. We did it with Williams, so I don't know what we're...
I put the whole thing that time, so it should work.
If we don't get it within 10 minutes, we'll have to end the show, but I'd really like to hear something from Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Wait.
It will show email, Gmail, etc.
That's it right there. Never mind. Here comes Jeff. You just hit copy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is how I did it before.
Okay, here we go, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Misty.
Here we go.
Right on.
Yeah, we're still learning everything.
Little new.
Hope
and
everybody.
For Roger too, if Roger wants to.
Yeah, anybody can come on. So,
yeah, we don't care. We got room for what?
Tell us your secrets. Tell us whatever.
Your secrets.
Misty, we're gonna have you sometime too. You and Erica and whoever. I'm gonna have a show about growing stuff and whatever.
Oh, Bigfoot Bud put like foraging for wild plants in your area. I think I highlighted the comment earlier, but I don't think I spoke on it. So
that's a great idea.
That's another thing to become familiar with. And all you have to do, like we have iPhones, and you just take a picture and you'll scroll up, and then you can hit to like identify plant or whatever.
Click on him.
Like what?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Look who it is.
Roger Williams.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, y'all, give me a second. Let me go help find a leash.
All right.
I'll be right back.
Take
no problem.
Time.
Take time.
Sorry.
No problem. So yeah, we're trying to do as many different shows as we can. I don't want to really talk about the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So ideas are always great. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hey there.
Hold on, I got some background stuff going on here.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Sit tight, everybody, because we got Roger and Jeffrey now. So this is another 3 hours.
What in the world is going on with this thing?
I don't know. You're blurry too.
Yeah, it's blurry.
Sorry, y'all. We had a animal emergency.
Uh-oh.
Everything okay now?
Oh yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I'm probably in trouble, but
Well, Jeff is trying to make it on.
there he is. What are we talking about? I'm sorry I'm late, y'all.
Oh, you're fine. This was a bug in scenario or bug in the house scenario. So
Roger, are
Yeah.
you tired?
Well, that's a good point because uh 10 years ago I might have been ready to bug out, but I'll have to dig in. I'm not going to be bugging nowhere.
no, Roger, what I did was I started talking about in the beginning of the show what went down in Spain, Portugal, and part of France with their power outage, and we just felt that people needed to know what to do where they lived,
Right.
and bugging in, not bugging out. Bugging out will be
Exactly.
a whole different show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, having an advantage of knowing people that went through the Great Depression,
Oh yeah.
probably we were, I don't call people preppers that I grew up around, but I compare them to a bunch of squirrels, because they've been without, they've been hungry, they've been
Mhm.
in places where something broke down, they didn't have ways to fix equipment.
Right.
And so you go in these old barns. That's another thing. If just because nobody's lived on a place and there's an old barn, don't think they might be empty. That's a little hint, hint.
Oh
Now,
wow.
Roger, did you have a grandmother that canned food?
Yes, my
Yeah.
mom did. My grandmother.
Okay.
The one thing that always had, if they had no money, they had food,
Right.
Mhm.
and the freezers were full. They would, family. There's one group that their specialty was tomatoes and green beans, and they would get together for a few days, and 3 or 4 groups of them together, and just do a lot of canning and spend time together, and they'd have a big garden, and
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, I grew up around a lot of it, so, and I've been in situations where Heather and I almost got stranded in Wyoming in a
Ooh.
bad situation. But I didn't panic because I had 2 weeks worth of food and water in the truck.
Oh
Nice. Good.
wow. You
Yeah,
were
so
prepared.
I mean, and I don't want to sound like you go overboard, but I'd rather have it not need it, any day.
Well,
Yeah.
And
that's how it should be. I mean, that's what I feel that's how, my grandmother was that. She was a canner and she had a little room in the basement that was wall to wall canned food, jarred food, she jarred
yeah,
everything.
and
And
and really, y'all, people talk about, well, canning, but it's so expensive. Well, it's not about the cost. I mean, it's for, if you want to do it for fun and all that, yeah, you can go buy stuff cheaper. But
Mhm.
uh how
Yard
long
sales.
how long would the vegetables last in a mason jar rather than, you know, whatever? So
Right.
absolutely.
And I always say you know what is in it if you did it
exactly.
yourself.
That's
You
very important.
if you're stocking cans of food, you're getting
Mhm.
preservatives, you're getting uh, tons of salt, you're getting things that really don't need to, uh,
Yeah.
red dye 4 or whatever, the yellow 20, whatever. Whereas you're canning it yourself, you're getting what you put in it.
But
Yeah.
also what materials make that jar that you buy at the store? Do you really know what's even in the packaging itself?
Well, and another thing, you think about, I've got several canned goods in this room. This room doubles as a studio slash storage room. Let's put it that way. And
Mhm.
but if I open up a can of corn over here and I use it, now I've got a can that I can't reuse. I open up a jar of tomatoes from the cellar, then I've got
Yep.
it's things I can reuse
You got a
Those are
later.
ton of
good.
things you can reuse there.
Right. So um I grew up, God, man, we were so poor, but we didn't know it. My mom and dad didn't let on, and we had a huge garden. We hunted and fished. I thought we were doing it for fun, not picking okra for
Yeah.
fun. I hated that. But I remember getting into situations though. We were out west one time in the winter, and there was a there was a guy with us. He didn't know us that well, and 3 of us were really good friends. And we went to a ball game, and This was 1992, 93, and we were out in Arizona coming back, and there was a message came over the radio. Anything over a certain elevation was going to get at least 15 inches of snow pretty quickly, and we're in a 92 Camaro, this high off the ground, so anyway, me and my buddy Matt, we grew up together. We started looking at each other. I'm a hoarder, so if we stopped somewhere and they had matchbooks and stuff like that for souvenirs, I was all about the free stuff, right?
Right.
So I started getting the matches. Didn't say anything to anybody. We're in the back seat. I grabbed up all those matches, and I triple bagged
Thanks,
them,
Angie.
quadruple bagged them to keep them from getting wet.
Yeah.
I started taking inventory, and I heard you talk about the beer. We had plenty of that. But I had back then I had a 9mm Taurus and a couple extra clips or mags full, and we're discussing quietly. And this guy we're on the way back. We didn't like him very well, and he was wearing penny loafers. Nothing wrong with penny loafers, but he just wasn't our tribe type.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm sitting in the back seat, and we're discussing quietly about things and what we have and all that. And I made the joke. There was this tree out there that was very highly endangered, and like Greg said the other night, this reminded me of it. They're like, well, if we get stranded, I'm gonna light up one of them trees and get arrested. Like don't you couldn't break a twig. I'm gonna start a forest fire, and I'll take, I'll get 3 meals a day. But you gotta do what you gotta do, And so, but we're talking, and it's a serious situation. We already don't like this guy, and he's sitting in the passenger seat. And he said, "Who the F are you?" He looked at my buddy. He had a big beard. He looked like Jeffrey there. He said, "Who the F are you, Grizzly Adams?" Like that. And I turned around. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I don't think you know what kind of situation you're in." I said, "You're odd man out. We don't know you. We're eating you first."
Oh.
He didn't say anything for 1,800 miles.
Wow.
I wasn't joking with him. But anyway, and like you say, you'd rather have it. I remember a big lesson for us was in the mid-90s with the ice storm, and some people were without power for 30 days here, depending on which hollow you were in.
Wow.
We were lucky enough to get it back in like 3 days because one of the guys that worked for the Duck River Electric was one of the higher ups in the company. So we were on that line. So we got power pretty quick, 3 days. But
wow.
The first night we had to sleep at our store, and I went into my truck and got heat blankets, candles. We had plenty of food at the store, but there was certain things, that made it more comfortable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I always during the wintertime kept extra clothes behind the seat and stuff
It's
like
the best.
that.
It's the best thing you can do just to keep that extra stuff in your vehicle, because you don't know, just driving, if you run into a snowstorm or whatever and you go off the road, you have to have a way to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't run your car for, whatever. You need to have something, blankets,
Yeah. Again, with the layers.
food.
And also, y'all, I read a story one time. I don't remember where it was at. It was a true story. And this man was out in the Rockies. He was in a truck. I believe he was in like a regular cab pickup truck. He got snowed in on the road, and he had written a journal, so they knew everything that happened from the day he got stranded to the day he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have a lot extra, and then in the snow, the water, he was staying alive he had plenty of that. But they said because he had contemplated leaving and walking, and they said if he had got out and walked, he was like 300 yards around the bend from clear roads, and he didn't know
I think I remember that.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
that scared me.
300 yards.
Yeah. It was just around the bend, and he couldn't see it. And he in his journal, he's like, I'm thinking about walking the snow so deep. I don't know how far I can make it or whatever. And they're like, the emergency vehicles had come up to that point many times and turned around
Oh my God.
just out of sight. So yeah, so there comes to a point where you have to look at your supplies, and be real. If somebody
Yeah.
hadn't come by in 2 weeks, they probably ain't going to.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to make some hard decisions. He made the wrong one, but I might have made the same one too. I don't know, but
That's the thing is you don't know what decisions you're going to make. A lot of
Mhm.
people panic. Have a plan. I mean,
Right.
if you're going somewhere and you have a map, look at what's around you. If you're using your cell phone, look
Yeah.
at what's around you.
And be able to read a map. Don't just rely on, GPS.
Yeah, because if the
and
phone goes down, you have to rely on maps. So if the internet goes down, we have to know how to read a map.
Yeah.
Now, Roger, you and I definitely come from the era where, if we were going somewhere, there was a road map, or maybe we could use what was the old AOL
they were hard. A map quest type thing.
MapQuest. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I couldn't do MapQuest. They had to give me too many
My
directions.
grandfather always would show me maps when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I'm glad I figured out how to read them.
Right.
I gave directions for 30 years on the interstate out of atlases, so I know I know how to get places I've never been to.
Yeah.
Well, that's like
Absolutely
here at
very
the farm. You don't know how many times back in the day people would pull in here lost trying to get
Yeah.
directions to
Mhm.
the right.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
I
we're-
might have said them the wrong way because I wasn't that great at
Let me tell you something
remembering
else.
which things were.
Coming from a store background, I don't care if you have $80 million on a credit card. If you're going on a trip, you better give a couple hundred cash, head back, because there's a lot of people that I know didn't know them, but the situation was something happened. Their bank locked their card down or
Mhm.
whatever because of suspicious activity, and it was them. And they
Yep.
had to call. It would take hours. Sometimes they'd have to stay overnight. They'd be in trouble.
Mhm.
Always have a little bit of cash on hand, in a situation like that.
Well,
Yeah.
I've
that's
seen
one of the things. That's one of the things I forgot to mention to everybody. Maybe we did, and maybe I missed it. But cash and small bills. In an
Mhm.
SHTF scenario, you have to have small bills because people aren't going to be able to break big bills.
Right.
So it's a great thing to you buy stuff or barter with, but have that cash, store it somewhere safe. Don't
Mhm.
tell people you're storing it. That's the big thing right there is, don't go out and tell people, because I used to do this and I'm doing this online right now, but don't tell people you're a prepper that you're close to, because they know where they're going to go to get food
Right.
in an SHTF scenario. Well, we know the blacks have it. The
Yeah.
problem with that is that they're going to have to run into the house that's well guarded with, pew-pews
Right.
and freedom fries. So,
and there you go too. Some very good people are gonna have to make some very difficult decisions at that point.
absolutely.
I was telling Peyton, I'm like, there, and I was joking, not joking in that comment. Watch The
Mhm.
Walking Dead. Don't pay attention to the zombies. Watch the people.
I was exactly, when you put that
Mhm.
on there, I was thinking the exact same thing. It just shows mankind, when we get into a scenario we don't understand, we take things into our own hands. So like I told her one day, I never want to be a bad guy, but if we
Right.
ran out of food and water, I'm going to have to be a bad guy. That's just how to survive. You don't want to kill people, but you're going to get food whatever way you can.
Have to make choices. Well, and it'd be better if you were prepared and had barter items, of course.
Right.
But they always can be taken away from you too. So it's not an easy answer. You can prepare all your life and something happened and you might not make it the first 2 hours, but at least you gave yourself a chance or your family a chance,
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and one of the main things right now here being in this location, I know where there are a lot of springs at.
Oh yeah.
And I know a lot of people. One of my best contacts had an artesian well, and he just sold his and moved. So, but there are hidden springs that we know about, and you hear this all the time, Well, I know how to hunt, and I'm like, yes, but exactly. But there are enough game animals here to probably let us last a week or so. Because if everybody's hunting, there's
Right.
nowhere near enough.
Right.
So, and y'all probably have already talked about all this.
That's
but-
okay.
No, it's fine.
Keep talking, Roger.
But it-
Yeah,
You're good.
because we've had people that have just made it for part of the end of the show too.
Yeah.
But if you don't have water, you're not going to survive. It doesn't matter. You can't survive without
one
water.
one of the things I was harping on was the fact that we all take things for granted. So nobody really counts on getting wiped out by a tornado or hurricane or whatever, or when the shit hits the fan. Nobody really thinks about that. They just want to live their life day to day.
Right.
Then there are the people that, like her and I, want to prepare for this. If it does happen, I don't want to be worrying about where my food is coming from or where my water is going to.
At least for 2 or 3 weeks. After that, if it hadn't got better by then, it's going to be rough anyway. But anything can happen for a few weeks. Just take, for instance, a couple years ago, we had a snowstorm here, a rare one. It locked down everything for a week, right? My neighbor over here is trying to dig his car out. And I'm like, what are you doing? He said, I got to go to the grocery store. My wife, she has some kind of disease and she can only eat certain type foods. And he said, we're out. I said, what does she need? He said, man, if we just had some chicken. I was like, hold on a second. And I went to the freezer and I'm like, we're probably going to have another 3 days of this. So I'm like, come on, what do you need? And hey, what I owe you? Nothing. Just don't get out and get yourself killed.
Right.
Trying to buy some chicken, just dig in.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I guess I learned my lesson. He's former military too. He knew.
Oh, wow.
Better. And
he should know better. Yeah.
But the thing is, we're not, especially with today's prices, we're not able to store back as much, so I understand, but the
Not
thing
much
is,
you go to the woods and get it.
absolutely. And you can go do that beforehand, keep your, my cousin, he was as close to Daniel Boone as anybody I've ever seen, or David Crockett, because he would call me and say, hey, long time ago, y'all, statute limitations is, probably off of this, but he'd say, hey,
Oh,
man,
you told me this. But
yeah, it's like, hey, man, my freezer's getting empty. You want to go hunting? Well, it's not hunting season. I said my freezer is getting empty. I'm like, and he was telling the truth. It wasn't for fun,
Well, I've never understood why you need hunting. Our ancestors hunted to feed themselves and take care of themselves. And for some reason, we decided that, well, not we, but they decided they wanted to put, buy a license to go hunt food so that you could feed your family. And it's just ridiculous that that's where it's at now.
You want me to tell you why? My theory? Because our ancestors knew how to rotate crops and hunt in different seasons, not like, so nowadays nobody knows, so they just go out there and kill all the does while they're pregnant, right? Or it's just the same thing as like if you hunt ginseng, you go and you dig the ginseng, but you take the berries and you replant them if you want to have more. So what happens is these hunters or people are like right now, so they would shoot a doe that's pregnant with little ones. So if you get to doing that, you'll eventually run out. Our ancestors, however, that was their way of life. They knew those different times to do whatever. So
well, we could also look at this differently too, is the fact that they put had to have a hunting license to hunt and a fishing license to fish. Maybe they're trying to get us away from eating natural food and making us go to the store more to eat the crap that they want us to eat.
Yeah,
I have to say real quick. I don't think I put this earlier, but Misty put a comment. I might have highlighted it, but Roger, what you said, I've read some things before where it's leaving some of what you've taken kind of comment. You're not wiping out all of the berries, all of the ginseng. You're not eliminating it and just taking it for yourself. You're actually leaving some more so it'll survive and continue to grow. But Misty put something earlier and I was going to touch on that and I did not. Saving seeds. Saving seeds from your garden is one of the most important things you can do.
Yep.
And one of the things I've come across, they even have them on Facebook and probably in nearly every region, there are seed sharing groups. And that's very helpful because if you have a plethora of a certain type of seeds, but you're looking for one, they will trade you seeds. And it's such a cool concept.
Yep. And another thing, we're talking about restocking. We were taught as youngsters, when you go and you get permission to fish a pond, that you didn't take everything. And then sometimes if we were in a bigger pond and we caught some extra and we had a bucket, our mission was to take a certain percentage of those and run them over to another pond and restock. You know,
There you
Oh,
go.
okay.
That's a good idea.
as fishermen, we kept these ponds, not just me, but a handful of us. We kept all these ponds stocked in fish all the time. And once
Nice.
people started buying these ponds and not allowing us to fish, now there's no fish. You get the few fish, but
Yeah.
but they were fully stocked. When I was in my teens, 14,
Mhm.
15, 16, it was fun. We were like, oh yeah, we put some catfish over here in so and so's pond because he needed them
Right.
or whatever, and
Yeah.
that was just part of it. Of
But
course,
go ahead, Roger. I'm sorry if I
no,
interrupted.
we were taught though, and we didn't know any different. We thought it was a respect thing. Open the
Yeah.
gate, close the gate,
Yeah.
climb a fence the best you can without tearing it up. If you do tear it up, tell the guy you did it and go fix it. But
Yeah.
people don't do that, y'all. They don't. They
It-
leave trash. They ruin it for everybody else. They'll go in there. The
Yep.
the fish will be biting, and they'll absolutely
Oh,
fish until they fished it out. So
Yep, absolutely. Roger, I agree with you 100%. I've always been, if I hunted or if I fished with my dad, everything was return everything back to normal. Put everything
yep,
back. If you
right.
walk through a fence, close it. If there's a lock on it, make sure it's locked again. If
yep,
you know, just respect the property you're on and
Yeah.
respect the people that might be coming in after you to fish or hunt as well.
Or
And
leave.
as a society, we'll succeed. But the fact that that doesn't happen much now, we also see the downgrade of society and where,
exactly.
the separation of everybody. There's a lot of other things involved there, but, not everybody's as kind and heartfelt to do things like that. So,
Yeah.
And see, and Jeffrey sitting here, I grew up around a lot of farmers and helped them some enough to know that I didn't want to farm because it's hard work. But the thing is, Jeffrey has to be very aware of his supplies and the cost and what
sure.
he needs to save and to do business the next week or and when you grow up around farmers, you can learn a lot about conservation and don't not being wasteful. And I know just simple things like uh, some of my uncles hated round bales back in the day because there's so much waste involved. But you couldn't get anybody to haul them. The square bales, they would eat it up, and they'd use all of it.
Mhm.
But a lot of the cows and stuff, they'll eat the center out of round bale and then tromp down the rest of it. But it's just little stuff like that. But
Mhm.
I mean, there's so much you can talk about, and probably the group of people that's watching already pretty much know a lot of it. But it's for people that have come along later,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roger, when we did this show, we knew that probably the group that we know that would come into chat were pretty much the same minded as we are. But you might get 1-2 people that are new that are
Right.
going to say, wow, I didn't know this.
Right.
And that's, any way we can get a message to cross
Mhm.
to anything, to anybody. I want that. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're here for,
Mhm.
to put out a little bit different show so that people would say, wow, I didn't know that helpful. That's why we plan on, like you're going to do with your new show, just do different things to educate everybody. And
Right.
I'm not saying I'm educating because I'm learning as well in the
Right.
chat.
Yeah.
So
But that's what a discussion is, though.
yeah,
I mean, it's and people who have been in certain situations. The reason I had extra clothes in the vehicle is not because my daddy told me to and it was very smart. He probably told me to, but I've had to walk before several miles because we ran through a fence and couldn't, and it's got sleet and snow, and I had short sleeves on and all that. And once I almost froze to death one time, I'm like, that ain't happening again. you know, I've paid a lot of stupid tax in my life. I've got scars, broken bones,
right.
empty bank account, you
Yeah.
name it. And it's all from doing dumb stuff. But and
Like you were saying about the farms, I don't want to tell you how much stuff I've held together with baler twine.
oh yeah,
Oh.
I guarantee you, I can name. Jeffrey's probably got a toolbox that has a few things in it, and I probably could write a list of what's in that toolbox right now.
There's a pair of vice grips somewhere.
Duct tape,
It
baling
might be
wire,
in another
vice
toolbox
grip.
that someone robbed one out of.
He's got a Phillips head and a flat head, and he's got an old knife he ain't worried about breaking.
And a hammer.
And a hammer.
The hammer. You can't forget the hammer.
The hammer fixes more things than you would think it does.
Yep. I had a hammer.
And a crescent wrench. You need one of them too.
My daughter's texting. She's starting to get involved. She said, "I can do all your thumbnails." She's getting excited about helping out.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
I mean, and there's a lot of things like people don't think about. Well, I have a good can opener. Yeah, but do you have 8 of them? Well, why?
Absolutely, Roger. Absolutely.
You know, because they break.
Why do you think we collect hand tools at every yard sale?
Right, old stuff, right? That's lasted 100 years and 50.
Yeah, because if it rusts up, I can go spray WD-40 on it. It'll start working again.
Yeah.
I'm looking around, and there's I have items that people are like, "Why do you have that? Like, why do you buy the old sausage grinder, the hand grinder, the hamburger?" When you go to Goodwill and it's $3 and it's still new in the box from the '60s, I'm like,
oh wow.
I may not ever use it.
My grandmother make tomato sauce with those damn things.
I may not ever use it, but if I've got 4 or 5 of them and things happen, somebody else might need it, and I might get food for a week for it.
I've been thinking about looking for one of those old hand drills. You know, the kind you would do like
we
that.
have a few of them.
I'd love to have one of those.
Yep, and it's
in a shit hits the fan scenario. I'm not going to be use a power drill, and my batteries aren't going to last so long. But the hand drill is going to last forever.
Let me tell you something else. This is things that people don't think about. My dad, he's like, "Well, you got all that shaving cream and razors for?" I'm like, "Well, if something happens, whatever." He said, "Yeah, you're gonna be the only clean shaven SOB in the neighborhood. They're gonna rob you. I'm like, they'll come kill you for your razors. They know you. They know if you got razors, you got other stuff." I'm like, I didn't think about that. So if stuff happens, just let it all grow out.
Yeah.
But another thing too, okay, but I got a grill, I got a smoker, I got this, and well, yeah, but you out here smoking a rabbit that you came up on, and 95 people are hungry. Now look, I'm going to share. You know what I mean? I'm going to share if I can share.
But once you share, Roger, then you're opening up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, you're a target.
I know. Here's the best case scenario, y'all. Know your neighbors.
Yes.
Talk to your neighbors. Be on the same page with those, and already have a system set up. Hey, I've got this talent, or I've got this I can know how to do, and you have water, and maybe I can trade this for that, and already be talking about it, so you won't be, surprised.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm preaching to the choir. I got a lot to learn, but
we all do.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't know, like we said when we did the beginning, we don't know everything about this. And the reason is we wanted to learn from other people. And we've already learned some new things just from you guys being on here and the chat. We've learned new things. That's what this is supposed to be about. It's unfortunate that we all live so far apart from each other that we don't have this community here, because this would be a great community to have. But,
speaking of that, we're missing Phyllis and John, because she would have mentioned the compound.
I think they're probably still fishing.
Yeah, and see that knowing how to do that stuff is valuable.
Absolutely.
I know they're not running farms anymore, but I would go into these shops. Now people have shops for the razor and their fancy toys and all that. But back in the day, a farmer had a shop. You'd walk in, he didn't have to go to town and get things welded, or they could produce parts they needed. They had cutting torches, they had welders, they had all the, and I learned how to do some patchwork stuff back in the day, or I sit and watch them, I'm like, man, this is pretty amazing.
Well, it's funny because there's a lot of videos out there that show farm boys, fixing a car or a tractor or whatever, and they're using whatever they can to fix it, and the stuff works.
Yes.
And that's how it used to be. If you lived out in the middle of nowhere, there was no auto parts store. You had to go somewhere look at
Yeah.
a Sears and Roebuck catalog, and then send something out, through the mail system, which would take forever.
2 weeks
And
from everywhere.
yeah, and then you had to wait whatever many days. Whereas
Mhm.
they just said, okay, well, let's
I
see,
know.
we need. Go
I
ahead,
saw
Jeff.
my dad
I
one
get
time,
some hose clamps, zip ties, and some duct tape.
and check this out. I saw my dad one time. He grew up poor as you could grow up, but my uncle had a junkyard. So there was a guy broke down. It was late at night, broke down at our store, and he had, I believe it was a gasket around the hose. I don't know if it's on the thermostat. I think it's on the thermostat. But he blew a gasket, and it was Daddy was looking. And he said, "Man, I don't want to stay here all night. There's nothing open." And he's looking at it, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "If you give me $2 for that milk in there I have, and what it was in a big back in the day in a carton." He said, "If you give me a couple dollars and buy that," he said, I'll fix it where you can get home tonight and teach you something." And he was teaching me too. So the guy looked confused. He bought the milk. My dad went over and poured it out. And he took his knife, case double X, sharp as a razor, and he started cutting pieces. Then he took a ball peen hammer. They had it apart, and he took it and he laid that cardboard or whatever, that wax covered, that the
Mhm.
carton's made out of. And
Mhm.
he was tapping, 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 and he made an outline of the holes that he needed, and then he cut it. He did that like 2 or 3 times, layered them, made this gasket for this
Made a
dude, tightened
gasket.
it down. He said, "Now you can get home, get out of here so I can go home."
I've heard
Wow.
of
I
that before.
love it.
I think my dad might have done that before too.
So you make and do, right?
Oh yeah.
I've
I
heard
love
people
those stories.
And see
talk
that
about the old days.
it all
Like
goes back to what we're talking about, Roger, as far as the bugging in scenario. Know how to do things around your property, take care of your property,
Yeah.
so that you don't have to go outside or, maybe put your life at risk or whatever. Just take care of your stuff. I love this.
Greg has an awesome tip about if you lose water for like it's going to take a couple days or whatever,
Mhm.
you can take and turn off the water, and the water heater stores 50 gallons of water,
Oh yeah.
Yep.
and you can get the water out of the water heater to drink if you need it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You flush it, of course, but of course you get you have life straws. I've got several of those Brita things
Yeah,
here
same here.
that's never been used, and they're still put up in boxes. I've got
Mhm.
filters and all that. So
Oh
and
yeah.
look, it's not going to last 10 years. I know that.
Yep.
I have a moonshine still over here that's never been out of the box, but it's got all the parts. If I need to boil water, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
was talking moonshine. I wasn't worried
Well,
about
I
water.
could, yeah, that too. I got, yeah. Hey, I learned how to. Well, no, wait a minute. I heard a guy, uh, uh, the other day. I went to his house, and I saw one of the bigger steels I've seen in a long time. It was nice,
Oh
stainless,
Oh wow.
wow.
and it was taller than me. And I got my phone out to take a picture. He said, "No, no, no."
Roger, also that's another barter item is
Yes, sir.
alcohol.
Yes, sir.
Alcohol and cigarettes. I mean,
Cigarettes.
again, we
Yes,
don't
sir.
smoke. But you can keep cigarettes around packages and barter those off if it's an SHTF scenario.
They're considered luxury items, and or like so during the Depression. The one thing, the couple things that made money still that people would splurge money on was movies, where they could go 10 cents and forget about their troubles for an hour and a half. The
Aw.
movie business boomed, right? Dime, go in,
Mhm.
spend your dime. Um, Alcohol, stuff like that. People, anything where people to escape their troubles for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a luxury item, and you can absolutely barter with that. And see, people think, they're like, oh, moonshine, they think corn and sugar and all that. This was the best I have ever had in my life, and it was made out of pecans.
Oh
Oh wow.
wow.
It was unbelievably crisp and clean, and I was like, oh, I need to get away from this.
Hey Jeff, have you ever had that pecan moonshine?
Wow.
I've tasted a lot of them, so
Ain't no telling
well,
what's in some
sure.
of them. Hey,
I
back in
might have.
that's what's wrong with me now. My brain cells gone. But but the thing is, you're like, oh, well, that guy, he makes the legal amount and he enjoys it. Okay, let's put it that way, and which is probably not true, but um, uh, the thing is, they're like, oh, that old guy, yeah, he's doing something illegal. Well, that old guy's going to become very important when you need alcohol for your wounds, or you
Right,
need
right.
right.
Absolutely.
Yep. So hey, I was broke one time, and my doctor, I told him later, I had got a cut, and he had noticed this scar on my leg. He said, "What in the world happened to you?" And I told him, I said, I didn't have any insurance, and I said I got in there and I said I cracked open some Wild Turkey 101, and I poured it off in there, and then I did this, and I put it together the best I could. And I said, I probably shouldn't be telling you this. He said, no, it looks like you probably saved a leg.
Oh, dang.
Oh, I said, yeah. Then I sterilized this and that. And he said, where'd you learn how to do all that? I said, MacGyver or something. I don't know. I guess. But, basic knowledge, like you said, most of us, if something happens and it lasts a year, most of us aren't going to be here.
Absolutely.
Right.
But if you can hold out and dig in, like y'all are talking about, for 3 weeks, 3 weeks, lay low,
Yep.
don't send any smoke signals, and keep keep from
Well,
looking out the window.
Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the things I said earlier was, choose your generator wisely.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have a gas generator, it makes a lot of noise. People are going to know you, are probably have food in your house that you're keeping cool. You have warmth. So you
Right.
really need to be careful and choose a generator that's right for your location.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just people think you have something that they don't have. It can be as simple as that, whatever
Exactly.
it is.
Well, look, we could talk about bad scenarios, but one of the worst ones that naive folks will be like, hey, I'll trade you this for 3 shotgun shells. Okay, here you go, buddy. And then boom, boom, then they take all your stuff,
Yep.
Right.
There's certain things you don't barter, Now,
Right.
if you've got a trusted group, that's different.
You have to
But-
really worry about that because, who can you trust? If you get
Right.
like we have phenomenal neighbors, and I know that the 2 neighbors we have across the way and down here, we would never have to worry about them. In fact, they would probably come to us because they probably think we're a little overboard on protection as
Yeah.
far as, I'm always, probably have a gun on me or talking about my guns or pew-pews. And so they know that I have that, and they know that we're all like-minded thinkers as well. They've lived here in Tennessee their whole lives, where coming from Ohio, I'm learning a new area, a new environment. And, when we got here, I said, I think I found our people. I think I found the people that I'm supposed to be around, because everybody here cares. And,
Right.
Where we were from in Ohio, it wasn't quite like that. So
Right.
when we started storing stuff for bugging in or bugging out, whichever way we were going to go, we really had to worry about not sharing stuff as far as telling them what we were doing or what we
Right.
had. We started hiding stuff that we were stocking in our garage, water, food, and we'd had to hide it in cabinets, lock the cabinets, and
Well,
not tell anybody.
At one point in this crazy half a decade we went through, there was a social media notes, like if you see somebody stocking up on things, tell on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's why you have people leaving certain states and going spreading out across the country, because they
Absolutely.
realized who their neighbors were, and that's all I say. I mean, if and another thing, one of the most valuable things you can possess in a situation like we're talking about is a skill of some sort that nobody else has. But then they can't take that away from you. They need you.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, well, that's what you bring into your community. So
yeah,
I have a tool and die background. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody's going to have a machine that I can run, but I
right,
know how to work with certain things to do certain things. Jeff's a farmer. He's a livestock farmer, mainly cows.
Yeah.
You've got, I don't know what all you've done, Roger,
Right.
quite a bit,
Well,
but you've got things that you bring to the table as well. And that's what we
Right.
have to look at,
and look, and people, they'll look at this and they're like, "Oh, y'all are nuts," and we're skipping a lot of stuff. And I can't see chat, y'all. I'm sorry, but the thing is with the chat, even if I can't see it, exactly, honey, um, but you can go back and read that later. You know, like you can go
Oh
back and
yeah.
watch it, and I can see it. Um,
Yeah.
but what we're really talking about, we're not talking about anything extraordinary. We're talking about things that people did up until recently.
Right.
Anyway, when I say I grew up around a bunch of squirrels, it's like everybody prepared for the next season.
Yeah.
It's like in this season, they're preparing for this season and on like that.
Mhm.
So
Ooh.
Oh, Roger.
Huh.
Send the link again.
Don't know what happened.
Oh, he's
Oh,
back.
here he is.
I
There
think
you
that
are.
was my fault. I think that was my fault. Sorry.
It's okay.
But seeing, my grandmother, she didn't have a whole lot of money, but like I said, she had food.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncles and all of them, everybody grew up the same way. So tools, the tools are very important. Um, and also simple machines that I saw in a mate. We were in the center of Florida a couple years ago. Heather's from that area. And we found this old, and I wish I could remember the name of it. There was it was a group of people that lived off the grid back in the early 1900s. They had their own generator. The belt on that generator was probably, almost 2 feet wide.
Right.
This thing I forgot what it was made out of. It ran the whole little community. They had a schoolhouse, they had their blacksmith, they had their garden areas, they had their water supplies, and of course, uh, who didn't like that because they were doing very well
Yes.
and they wasn't collecting. And I'm gonna tell y'all how petty who is
Uh,
just by this thing. So I had people years ago. Do y'all remember walking in a store and for y'all that smoke, and you could buy a single cigarette for a dime in a
oh
cup?
no.
You remember that? You could walk in and people didn't have enough for a whole pack. There would be a cup up there with an open pack, and the retailers would charge a dime, and they,
Wow.
hey, well, give me one of those, and they would leave, right? Well, I know the state of Tennessee put a stop to it, and we were all like, why? Why in the world did they put a stop? Now this ties into what some of this we're talking about loosely. I figured it out one day when the process on a pack of cigarettes, when I buy a carton of cigarettes as a retailer, wholesale, the company I'm buying from pays the state tax and government tax on that carton prepaid. So when I buy it, I reimburse them for the cost, then their profit, and the tax.
Wow.
When I sell a pack of cigarettes, I am charging tax on the full amount. So I'm taxing tax for the state, right? Now, if I break up a pack of 20 cigarettes and I sell them one at a time back when they were $2 a pack, there's not a single penny of tax collected for that pack of cigarettes extra.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So, see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
this ties in with some of the other things y'all talk about. But
Mm-hmm.
I threw a fit one time in front of one of our representatives. I'm like, this is the biggest scam I've ever seen in my life. And I said, what is
Yeah.
it? I said, we're taxing tax and sending it in. They're getting it up front, and then we're sending it in on the back end.
Right.
Wow.
That's why cigarettes, they had a hard time, with all that, because there's so much money coming in for the states, and then people never think about it. But that's what's happening.
Yeah, it's like that with a lot of things now,
Yeah.
Mhm.
unfortunately.
Yep. But anyway, sorry to get off on that, but
Oh, you're good.
but the thing is, if they'll get upset over 30 cents worth of tax, then they're definitely going to get upset. Well, wait a minute. If this community is working, they're not worried about that one single community. If this community is working, what if 10 more pop up? And then what if
Mhm.
100 pops up off of that, and then now we got a problem because we're not getting taxed. So
Yep.
Hey, Jeff, can you? Okay,
he
I think
muted.
you keep freezing up a little bit, Jeff.
Jeff's muted too.
Oh, sorry. I
There
don't
he
know.
is.
The
Did
dog
you
was
have
scratching
anything
my-
you wanted to add to what you heard from earlier in the show?
Let's think about that. I gotta think back to what I was thinking about earlier.
What, okay, let me ask
Well,
you a
you're
question,
fine.
Jeff. As a milk farmer, dairy farmer, what would you do in a SHTF situation, having something as big as a dairy farm with the amount of cows you have? How do you
Well,
prepare for that?
we've got several generators, but we got one that's PTO powered that's hooked up to the milk tank. So we'll stock up on fuel and fill up the cans in case the electric goes out to the pump. Then I gotta get the power running from the tractor. Then I gotta get back over and turn the switch back on for the pump to get more fuel. So
Wow.
Jeff, you ever thought about this? What if you have, I don't know how many head of cow you have, but
we milk 110 twice a day.
that's a lot of food
Wow.
when people are hungry. Have you ever thought about security of just the cows?
Oh yeah, I thought about that too. I'd be
Yeah,
on
probably
constant roving patrols.
probably need a team of folks,
Probably,
just
Right.
in case,
I'd have to
several.
secure all the neighbors for that. Probably.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. My uncle probably keeps about 150 at any one time. So,
Well,
I'm
even
sure
just the
we could
milkers, I got
trade.
over 200.
Yeah. And it's just they don't milk them. They just raise them and sell them,
Yeah.
So that's just extra income for him. And but the thing is, they've thought about that before. If something happens, yeah, I could go work for him and do some stuff and help him out and trade some things or whatever. But you also and you people say, oh, wouldn't nobody do that? Hell, they'll break in and steal your ginseng. Like if you have a ginseng patch, these people,
Mhm.
that stuff's so expensive. It's about money, not food. But if it ain't nailed down and somebody knows where to sell it at, I don't care what it is.
Yep.
Or they could. And look, y'all probably said this, but in every community in this country, what is it? The average, there's 3 days of food for each person on the shelves.
I think yeah.
So that's one reason why we have, like right now, if the funds were cut off, you talking about a SHTF situation? If
Oh,
the
yes.
funds were cut off for a month
Mm-hmm.
to the baby birds,
Yep.
that's the way I'm gonna, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
You're gonna have an issue, and
Yes.
Oh, yes.
so anyway, I
I
don't want
agree
to get
with
you in too much trouble.
No, Roger, I'm surprised with what we've talked about in the past few shows that I haven't gotten any trouble. So I'm okay with it.
You
It's
might be all right.
Huh?
You might be all right. It's
I'm-
just they don't have anything to take away from you right now. So
That's right.
Yes.
I said I was going to stay demonetized just so
there
I
you
could
go.
send the word out.
So what we're gonna do, y'all, is we're gonna get up to $9.99, and then we're gonna have the lottery like in some of these movies. We're gonna pull your name and we're gonna kick you off the channel. Sacrifice, right? Uh, but look, I feel like a lot of this needs to be talked about, and a lot of it is being talked about. But
Mhm.
and right now we're a little more freer to talk about it, and I've got three. I won't bring them up, but there's three things that happened in the last 2 or 3 years that allowed us to get back to this point where we're at. It would probably go down in history as a turning point in the nation. But what happened? We just got a taste of how it could be.
Yep.
Don't get lax. Don't ever get
Nope.
lax
Yep.
again.
Never.
No.
We want to stipulate that the next pandemic could come any day. Power outages could happen anytime. We had Chinese spy balloons over us that were capable of carrying EMPs. which, if you don't know what an EMP is a small nuclear blast or a large nuclear blast in the atmosphere, and it shuts down all electricity, fries it. So if an EMP would happen, it would literally shut down everything. So
I have a bag here somewhere of the bags for that, for your little
Faraday
radios and
bags.
stuff. Yeah, but they're not. They sell them under another name. But if y'all, if it's not that hard to make a Faraday like cage or box,
Sure. You can do it with a trash can and tinfoil
right?
too.
But I don't have many things that will probably. But what I do have is like some of my old transistor type radios and stuff. When I go to like yard sales or somewhere where they're selling antiques, if they've got a old radio in a box never been used that takes batteries, I'll grab those things, and
Sure.
that's another item. And because at least you'll know what's going on, if you can get the information out there. I do have a scanner that you can use battery or whatever. If an EMP does hit, I don't know how prepared the emergency services are for something like that. Probably not at all, because the way it was when I was working at the sheriff's department, hell, they wouldn't even buy them snow tires. They're like, it stuff they needed was like, it was like teachers. I need this, and well, we're sorry, it's not in the budget. So these guys are having to go out, not making much money to start with, and buying stuff for their job. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we're looking to get the show done and over with, but I do want to say just what about a year, 2 years ago, a lot of our senators, if not all of them, were given satellite phones.
Yes.
So that's something for you to think about too in your preparation, as a satellite phone.
Yeah, we've not heard about that.
They're not cheap, but
They did.
Yep.
And
it's
also,
crazy.
we have a set of 3 Cobra radios, and Peyton's got one, and we've got 2 here. And now we use them for when we're hunting.
Sure.
But and we test them sometimes. And if you get on certain channels and just like test it, there's other people out there. You don't know who they are, but just make a plan. Like, hey, like one of my friends, he had the water source, and I'm like, hey, keep your radio tuned to this channel, and I'm not going to pull up at your house unannounced. So, but that could be something that might be valuable to you. And listen, y'all, just you're sitting around talking about this stuff. I'm looking at all the matches and candles and and stuff. But don't think because somebody's sitting there not saying nothing that they ain't thinking about what they do to you to take it away from you.
Absolutely.
I had a guy told me that he's in the part of the family from years ago, and he heard some people talking, and somebody asked him if he had any extra, like this or that. He said, I don't have to. Y'all got plenty for all of us. And they're like, what do you mean? He said, if it gets that bad, I'm coming taking it from you. And we all looked at each other and we were like, and he left. And I'm like, well, I'd rather him tell the truth right now. And me know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he just messed up. He just got crossed off the help list.
Absolutely.
You really have to wonder who you're going to trust in that scenario,
Yeah.
Roger. That's the tough part. Because if somebody gets, and that's how we are, we're not going to trust, if it's a long-term thing, you can't trust anybody because,
you can watch any movie. The movies will tell you the truth.
Yep.
You can watch like M. Night Shyamalan, whatever.
Shyamalan.
Where the trees started killing.
Yeah,
folks.
The Happening.
Yeah, start looking at. Watch that. Watch those movies a different way. The Walking Dead, any of the, and some of them focus on it, but there's some of them like The War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Yep.
When I watch those movies, I'm not paying attention to the storyline a lot of times. I'm like, what scares me is the background stories, the little interactions with people. This one guy, he pulls out a revolver trying to save his family and like 100 people attack him, you know.
That revolver's not going to do real well.
No, so anyway, and it's better to, you know, to have a plan than to not. And then again, you never know what's going to happen. The plan may not work, but it may keep you calm enough to come up with plan B.
Right.
True.
But,
so.
every day of your life, I know people work. I know people have families. I know you have kids are playing baseball and this, but you have to think at some point, how do I protect my family when the shit hits the fan?
Yeah. And the best way is to dig in and lay low and maybe let the chips fall where they may, and then come out like a groundhog in a couple of weeks and see what.
That's right. Absolutely.
gotta do.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and end it now. We have to eat dinner still and everything. But
Sorry, y'all.
Roger, Jeff, thanks for hopping on here.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
I love it. Everybody in chat, thank you for sharing some of your ideas with us. We hope you've learned something. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us rant about this. And all I ask is that think about this when you're sitting on your chair out looking at your front porch and how beautiful the day is. Think about all of this being taken away from you and what you're going to need to survive this. If whether it's weather related or other things.
It could be anything.
Can I give you a little bit of advice?
Please do.
Don't go into this thinking, oh, I need 8 months worth of this and whatever.
Right.
When you go to the grocery store and you get your usual 3 cans of corn, grab another one.
Yep.
Squirrel it away. That's what and there's been times where we've needed things like, oh man, late at night, like, oh, I need this. Well, there's some, we've got it in there.
Yep.
And I don't know. There's some people like they have things like they'll buy certain items that you need to be zigging when other people are zagging. If you think ahead, you can stock up on things that not essentials that people are needing to live right now, but things that they may want as a luxury later.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's like putting money in the bank, And then worst comes to worst, you can open up the half pint and drink it one night and share it with your wife, So
nope. Anyway,
I'm done.
Denise says, and remember to love one another.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely true. But also remember that not everybody has that philosophy. So
exactly.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Well, Roger, Jeff, thanks for hopping on here, guys. Kat, thank you for visiting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody.
And we greatly appreciate it. I hope you hit the thumbs up. That would be great. Very nice, at least. And I don't know if Gary shared the shows with everybody, all the other shows that are on, but check out Roger's show, The Squatch and Holler, and Old Line Cryptids with the milkman that's falling asleep up there, and Beards and Boogers. I think one of these days we're going to be doing another show on that. So everybody, thank you for joining. We love y'all.
Love you guys.
Peace out.
Yep.
Talk to y'all later.
All right.